We humans tend to spend money we don't have on things we don't need to create impressions which don't last, which is why I, Anaya Deore, have chosen responsible consumption and production as my SDG. Being a foodie, I have chose my topic to be based on food wastage and responsible consumption. Some of my favorite foods are pani puri, misal, and pav bhaji. How are these delicacies made? It all starts when a farmer sows a seed. Agriculture is the lifeline of Indian economy. India lives in over 700,000 villages. Every 1 out of 2 people rely on agriculture as their source of income. Even though India is blessed with strong endowments in agriculture, it is still not producing enough for the growing population. Why is this so? Due to the agricultural development and enhancement in technology, farmers have started to use HYV seeds. These seeds require a lot of nutrients and water, which they get from the soil. Let's say a farmer sows a seed of the wheat crop. All the nutrients present in the soil get used up by the HYV seed. For sowing the same crop for the second time, the farmer needs to add additional fertilizers and pesticides which help in the fertility of the soil. But to sow the same crop for the third time, the fertilizers need to be added in more amounts. Now, these fertilizers provide the plant with sufficient nutrients, but they kill the worms in the soil. The same worms which help in maintaining the fertility of the soil. So the farmers are trapped in a vicious cycle and feel the need to add more and more fertilizer every harvest season. This degrades the quality of a soil to a great extent and also increases the production of artificial fertilizers. Also, what happens to the wastes after harvest? Let's take the same wheat crop. The wheat kernels are used to make flour and later a delicious burger. But what of the husk? Many times, this so-called waste is turned into creating carbon emissions rather than being used as a natural fertilizer for the soil. But let's talk about an aspect you and I can easily relate to: consumption of food. It saddens me to know that 1/3 of all food produced for human consumption is never consumed. All those vada pavs gone to waste. But how can we change that? What can we do to be a responsible consumer? Well, as an expert on that very topic, let me tell you, buy only and only what you need. Make a shopping list and stick to it. Avoid impulse buys. Not only will you waste less food, you will also save money, which is always good. Pick ugly fruits and vegetables. Don't judge a food by its appearance. Oddly shaped or bruised vegetables and fruits are often thrown away because they don't meet the arbitrary cosmetic standards. Don't worry, they taste the same. Love your leftovers. This is something all Indian households already do. If you don't eat everything you make, freeze it for later or use the leftovers as an ingredient in another recipe. How many of you like paratha? At my place, whichever bhaji is left over is added in a paratha and the end result, I tell you, is scrumptious. Store food wisely. My mama always does this. She moves the older products from the front and the newer products to the back. Use steel or glass containers for storing your food. Sharing is caring. Donate the food that would otherwise be wasted. For example, if you have some leftovers, give them to your house help or your security guard. Now let's talk about how industries affect food production. To think about it, even before the food production begins, natural habitats and ecosystems are destroyed to clear the land that will be used for agriculture. Transportation of food is another factor that influences the unsustainability of our food production systems. After production, these crops are transported from the areas they're produced into wealthier, developed regions like Canada and the US for their enjoyment. One more thing you should know about the food industry is that it is not quite the bargain it seems. Did you know that the food industry produces greenhouse gas emissions, pollutes air and water, and destroys wildlife, which costs the environment equivalent of about $3 trillion every year? How can we make our food production more sustainable? Here's a few ways. Use eco-friendly packaging. Most of the restaurants have already implemented this. When it comes to metal food packaging, sustainably sourced aluminium is one of the most environmentally responsible choices. Reduce food waste. I have already mentioned a few ways to do the same. Improve energy and water efficiency. Reducing energy and water consumption can be particularly challenging in the food processing and manufacturing sector, as the production demands and safety requirements must come first. However, significant improvements can nonetheless be made by finding opportunities for greater efficiency. Use sustainable ingredients. Now, what are sustainable ingredients? To understand that, we need to understand what unsustainable ingredients are. The farming of dirty palm oil, cocoa, and coffee, for instance, has been linked to deforestation, habitat destruction, and child and forced labor, among other sustainability issues. Food processors and manufacturers can take a stand against these and other harmful agricultural practices by ensuring that they source high-risk ingredients responsibly. The bottom of the pyramid, which by the way has untapped potential for value creation, must become an integral part of India's sustainable growth story. Recently, I got an opportunity to participate in a program called Youth Forum Switzerland, where I got to speak to an expert about smart cities and sustainable communities, where I learned that we don't have to make our villages smart. We have to make the people in the villages smart. I intend to spread awareness about being vocal for local. Remember, habits can be stronger than reasons. Thank you.